democratic organized crime guild known as the New World Order. Big hour number 2 coming up, jam-packed with news, revelations, and the scoop on Obama shutting down our oil pipeline from Canada. Stay with us. Okay, we are into hour number 2. Best-selling author, Pastor Lindsey Williams, who 30 years ago was the first to blow the whistle on the fact that there's more oil in Alaska than there is in Saudi Arabia. He's since been proven completely right. He has told us so much here on air that's come true. And he was on, I don't know, 4 or 5 months ago with us the last time. And he said, you know, I've told you for years the Iran attack wasn't coming. Now it's coming in the next year. And I told you, no, enjoy yourself, drive around, have fun. Oil prices aren't going to go up too much until the next 6 months or so. Now it's started. And I have oil prices at $200 a barrel. Some think it's coming. That's CNBC Friday. So we'll have to recap all this in a moment, Lindsey, when we come back from break. But you've got some breaking information that you're going to share with us today. And I appreciate you coming on with us to go over this, sir.
A number of years ago, Alex, some things happened to me that were very unusual. Your listeners will never believe what I'm going to say today unless you give me just a brief moment. I was a pastor of a church for 12 years. I was asked and invited to be the chaplain of the elite of the world, and I lived with them for 3 years' time on the Trans-Alaska Oil Pipeline. For 35 years, I've kept in touch with some of these individuals. One of them died last year, so now you know that I really did know him. He was 87 years of age. Now, just recently, my present individual, who is in his 70s, he has children and a wife, a family. He's very concerned. I have never seen the like. This man has come out in the open. We've had numerous conversations lately. Every few days, he has told me the following. Please have a pencil and paper. You're going to want to write down some facts today. He said, when the financial collapse will take place. Now, I'm going to also tell you when it's not going to take place. Number 2, he said, why Mr. Obama may not be reelected. Did you catch that? I said, may not be reelected. You'll be startled. Keystone Pipeline, it fits into all of this, and it's so vitally important. And folks, please, he has told me what currency you must get into immediately. So all of these things I'll try to cover as fast as I can today. Now, Alex, the first thing I'm going to have to say is you have a lot of new listeners out there. I've never been on your Sunday show before. You'll have to verify some of this. I'm going to use the words, I told you so. Last October, November, December, you allowed me the privilege of being on your show. And every newsletter writer imaginable was saying there's going to be a financial collapse. It's going to happen in November or December. And, Alex, I came on your show. It's in your archives. I had gone to my elitist friend. I asked him, and I said it on your show. I said, Alex, there is not going to be a financial collapse in October, November, or December. Then January, February, and March. We're ending up March right now. You allowed me again the privilege of being on your show. I think it was the last of December or the 1st of March. I had just finished talking with my elitist friend, and I came on your show, and I said, folks, I'm going to have to apologize to all my newsletter writer friends out there. Every one of them are saying that the Ides of March, we're going to have a financial collapse.
You did say that. You said mark it down, take notes. It's on record. You were right again.
And I came on your show and I said it is not going to happen. I'm going to make another prediction right now based on my elitist. Folks, the elite know what they're doing. There positively is a group of people on the face of the earth who control the world. Everything has already been decided behind closed doors. And the only reason that I know it is by the providence of God that years ago he allowed me the privilege of living with these people. I gained their confidence, and 2 of them over the years have told me everything that goes on behind closed doors, and never once has it failed. Here's the prediction. There will not be a financial collapse during April, May, and June. You have my word on it. The elite said it's not going to happen, but I am going to tell you today when it is going to happen.
Whoa.
But I had to say I told you.
Lindsey,
so
you are totally cutting to the chase. This is awesome. And again, I knew who his one source was. I knew who the other was because they're both hiding in plain view. One's dead now. Lindsey Williams years ago was covering all this, and our good friend Dr. Monteith, being the journalist he is, still called the guy and was like, how do you know my name? Yeah, I'd more than telling him that. Don't say my name. And that fella died of cancer. I know who the other Mr. X is. We're going to break all this down when we come back. This is super powerful.
When you're out on the road, the last place you want to be.
Some very important information you're going to hear in the next 55 minutes or so in the second half of this Sunday transmission. It's so important. I'm obviously going to have Lindsey back up on the weekday show that's 11 to 2 Central, 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. Central, because what he just dropped on me the last week or two, we've been talking to him a lot off air, and he wasn't quite ready to go on yet. He is sticking his neck out here. I want to introduce him here briefly. 30 years ago, he wrote The Energy Non-Crisis that was a bestseller over the next 2 decades in the aggregate. He had worked as the chaplain on the Trans-Alaska Pipeline on the big drilling rigs for 3.5 years. This happens commonly, that the elite will bring in a pastor, generally to be a liaison. In fact, most big boards have that in the field, to the roughnecks. He got picked. So he was in their elite compound, the swimming pools and all the rest of it, but out in the field, staying in the tents with them. And he got to know 2 big, one a CEO, one a head of operations for a 2 major oil companies. I've known who they've been for a decade. I went back into the 80s and found them actually on record. One of them's actually been at a speech with Williams, but got in so much trouble he shut up about it. Got fired, got hired back. Now, one of them died of cancer a year ago, so we can now talk about him. Ken Fromm. The other guy, I don't even like to say Ken Fromm, because I almost say the other guy's name. Mr. X, we'll call him, is 80-something years old, still alive, retired former CEO of one of the big 5 oil companies. Everything Lindsey's given us, we separately have confirmed through Bilderberg sources, but we only get that intel once a year. By the way, that's coming up in about a month, and we're tracking that right now. It may be in the U.S. Some are saying Haifa over in Israel. We're not sure. The point is that all this is going on. Now, he said, I don't know, 4 years ago or so, that oil would go to $150 a barrel. Everybody laughed at him. It was at 50. It went to that. Then he said, everybody's saying it's going to 200. No, it'll go below 50. It dropped to 40, exactly as he said. He said that before it started dropping, and he said the time frame. His elitist sources have been right about 95% of the time. Now, they said 2 years ago, won't be an Iran attack. 6 months ago, they said now one is on the front burner in the next year. They said no economic collapse last year, as a lot of folks were saying. But Lindsey has these sources, and I know who the one source is. Now, we only got about 5 minutes left in this segment. We're going to come back and cover it all here. But this is a big deal. It also ties into the Keystone Pipeline that Obama killed. So Warren Buffett can make money shipping the oil to the West Coast, to then to China, onto the big oil tankers. He'll make billions a year off that. Even Bloomberg reported that. In fact, guys, put in the term for viewers that are watching at Prisonplanet.tv. Radio listeners can just search this, but I want to show it to people. Buffett stands to gain from Keystone being shut down. And then Bloomberg. I'm going to show them that from a few months ago. Obama has the nerve, when that heat got to him on gas prices going up, to come out and say, well, I'm going to allow the southern leg to be built. That's already built. He killed the middle leg. That's deception. That's deception. Okay, Lindsey, recap what's coming up, the bombshells you're about to drop, and then we're going to come back and get into them, because you just told me some incredible stuff that your elites have told you. Go ahead.
Please, everyone in the listening audience, I beg of you to listen to my concerned elitist friend, who is now up with a grown family. He's very concerned about America. And may I say, we must take immediate action. America, as we know it today, is doomed. You have a time frame right now. You have a window of opportunity right this minute that is you're going to find it amazing. Okay, Alex, what do you want me to cover first? You want me to cover the financial collapse? You want me to cover the Obama and the pipeline, or the currency? We got 3 subjects here. Whether I can get them all in today or not, I don't know.
Well, just recap that you're elitist friend. You're not talking to him once a month now. You're not just by email. You're on the phone with him, and he's freaked out. Start wherever you think it's most important.
I have made the statement, as was given to me by Mr. Fromm, long time before he ever passed away, that by the end of 2012, the dollar would be dead. And you need to understand this in order to understand.
You said that 3 years ago. I'm just backing you up. You said that 3 years ago. Go ahead.
Yes, and it will be. Now, let me show you what's happening, just in case you picked it up. First of all, don't pay any attention to the New York stock market. It means nothing. It is not an indicator of anything. It did not say that the dollar would be non-existent. They said the dollar would be dead. I want to show you how it's already dying, and then you'll put the pieces together. Again, please have that pencil and paper handy and write these things down, put them beside your calendar. Just about 2 months ago, China and Japan signed the largest trade agreement that's ever been signed in the history of the world, saying they would trade amongst themselves. China being the second largest economy in the world, Japan being the third, I believe, now with America the first. When they did that, it was in the agreement, there will not be the use of the reserve currency of the world, the petrodollar, which is the American dollar.
And by the way, India is almost more populous than China now. They've now left the U.S. and England as being our staunch ally. They've now teamed up with China publicly. They've always been enemies. This is a big power shift, and they've said they're going to move away from dollars.
No American dollar. That was the first nail that was hammered into the coffin of the American dollar as the reserve currency of the world. Then Iran, we put sanctions on them. The European Union came along and said no European Union country can buy any oil from Iran after June the 1st. The United States of America said you cannot use the American dollar to buy, sell, or trade oil with Iran. And then the United Nations came along and put on more sanctions. Iran was in a mess. They're the third largest supplier of oil on the face of the earth. 3.5 million barrels of oil every 24 hours. Iran needed to sell their oil. India needs oil. India stepped up and said, Iran, we will buy 1 million barrels of oil from you every 24 hours. But Iran says we can't sell it and use the American dollar. Oh, my goodness, folks, we shot ourselves in the foot as the United States of America. I can't believe our stupid State Department. India came along and said, Iran, we want that million barrels of oil every 24 hours, and we will pay you in gold. Can you imagine not getting funny money paper or Federal Reserve notes?
This is what's scaring me. Their top advisor, top globalist, Jon Corzine, publicly lied to Congress and is now being caught stealing money, and he's one of the top guys. It shows they're just a bunch of crooks behind a curtain. It's scary.
Do you see it, folks? China and Japan, largest trade agreement on the face of the earth ever signed. No American dollar. Iran and India, no American dollar. Folks, the dollar is going to be dead by the end of 2012, and the third one that maybe you haven't heard of, and you probably wouldn't unless you knew my elitist friend, Saudi Arabia supplies us with more crude oil than any other country on the face of the earth, and they have betrayed us. They came along and said, okay, China, you need oil. We will, and they're building it right now. The largest oil refinery ever built on the face of the earth has been built in China right now by Saudi Arabia, and the agreement between Saudi Arabia and China is we will not use the American dollar for the sale and the trade of this crude oil. China and Japan, Iran and India, Saudi Arabia and China, in 2 months' time, the dollar has begun to die as the petrodollar of the world, the reserve currency of the world. Now we're coming down to a collapse of the American dollar that is going to be utterly appalling. I have said it. I've been told by my latest friend, it will not happen yet. And there's a reason why. It's more important that you know the reason why the elite have not allowed the dollar to collapse yet. It's more important than knowing that it's going to collapse or even knowing the date that it's going to collapse. Why are they not allowed? It should have collapsed at the end of the Bush administration, and they came along with QE1 and QE2. Then they didn't allow it to collapse again this past year, and it should have in October, November, or December.
No, it should have. I had a lot of folks that we have on who really thought it was going to happen because they were saying QE3, but they didn't. Now they're saying it is coming. Stay there. That means hyperinflation, ladies and gentlemen.